Turning our attention to the NBA now, DraftKings contributors Kenny Ducey and Matt LaMarca, alongside Rotowire's Nick Whalen, are here for NBA price checks. Who's your favorite player at these salary ranges on tonight's 6-game NBA slate? So, Matt, in the 8K plus range, we got like Doncic, Embiid, Vooch, Giannis. A lot of questionable guys here, though. So where are you going?
Yeah, this is a weird slate. We have a lot of injuries, obviously, but also just not a lot of good matchups. There are only 2 teams right now who are implied for more than 112.5 points, which isn't even that high of a total. Like, it's just it's expected to be a pretty low scoring slate from a just raw scoring perspective. So I'm going to go with Zion. He's been very consistent for us recently, delivering, a lot of points. Rebounds and assists are okay with him, but it's really the scoring that he's been giving us. The Magic are a pretty good matchup. Zion's averaged 1.45 DraftKings points per minute over the past month, so I think he is the best bet in this paying up range at the moment. Things could change depending on who's ruled in or ruled out. But right now, Zion is kind of the guy I'm leaning towards.
Nick, where are you leaning?
I mean, I hate to echo what Matt said, but we've been all over Zion Williamson on this show of late, and it's another great matchup for the Pelicans against Orlando. I mean, worst defense in the league over the last 10 games, third worst total rebound percentage over the last 10 games. So even if Zion does have an off night from a scoring perspective, you'd think he'd have a good chance to supplement that DraftKings point total with some boards. He's 27 of 42 from the field over his last 2 games alone. He's gotten to the free throw line 19 times in that stretch. So it's really hard to shy away from Zion, especially at this price. There's the case to be made right now for Luka Doncic. He's at 11,000. I mean, if you're willing to pay up, he has 60 plus DK points in 3 straight games. Mavs are on a back-to-back playing against the Lakers team that has been pretty good on defense. Sounds like they're going to get Anthony Davis back, at least for limited minutes tonight. But like Matt said, I mean, there's so many questionable tags for these elite guys right now. We'll see if Giannis plays. We'll see if Embiid plays on the second night of a back-to-back. Tatum's questionable. Brown's doubtful. I think we're going to learn more throughout the day before we lock in anything.
Yeah, Kenny, a lot of questionable guys in this 8K plus range. Where are you going?
Yeah, I hate to agree with Matt because I love disagreeing with him, but he is right about Zion Williamson at $9,900. Look, it really is difficult. A lot of these price ranges, frankly, the next one we're going to hit on as well is pretty difficult, but Zion Williamson, his usage rate has been insane over the last 11 games. He's been over 31% used in 8 of the last 11, back-to-back 33 and 34-point games now. And Orlando's dead last with the dead last in defensive rating over the last 10 games, allowing 120, almost 121 points per 100 possessions. So I won't spend too much more time on it since we've touched on Zion a bunch, but I think he's a very, very strong play here tonight, despite the fact that Wendell Carter is okay at defending in the post, but I mean, he's not going to be assigned to Zion. He should have a pretty easy go of it here.
All right. How about that 7K range, Matt? Simmons, Harris, Bridges, Paul, where are you going?
I'm going to go with Kemba Walker. Kemba's coming off a pretty big game in his last outing. He went for 45.5 DraftKings points. We already said Jaylen Brown is doubtful. And Kemba has increased his usage rate by 5.1% with Brown off the court this season. That's the top mark on the team. He's averaging 1.13 DraftKings points per minute in that situation. So even if just Brown is out, I think Walker is a very strong play. Tatum is also questionable. So if he gets ruled out, then Walker kind of becomes like a must-play type guy. He would carry a huge workload, albeit in a tough matchup against the Suns, but I like Kemba Walker in this price range.
All right, who do you like in this price range? Nick, where are you going to go?
Yeah, you mentioned Miles Bridges. He's at 7,700 against the Bulls tonight. The Bulls are struggling on both ends without Zach LaVine. They were struggling even before Zach LaVine went out, and I think they kind of hit rock bottom last night, getting blown out in Cleveland. So they're on a back-to-back. The thing with Bridges, his last 9 games, 19.5 points, almost 7.5 rebounds, over 2 assists, 3.1 threes per game at 40+% shooting. And then the biggest thing is he's playing 37 minutes per game since Gordon Hayward went out. And that number's been closer to 38 or 39 minutes over the last 4 or 5 games. So even if he has an off night, he's playing so many minutes that he ends up having a pretty high floor. So I do like Miles Bridges. I'll throw a couple other names out there in this range as well. DeJounte Murray going up against a Detroit backcourt that typically plays, first and second year guys. So some advantageous matchups there. And then Lonzo Ball at 7,000 could take advantage of that Orlando matchup that we talked about in the context of Zion. Again, worst defense in the league over the last 10 games. And I think Lonzo's ownership will be a little bit lower tonight as his minutes have been limited these last couple of games. But I thought he looked a lot better Monday night against Brooklyn.
Kenny, the 7K range.
Yeah, I also have Miles Bridges written down here, and I also can give you some pivots off of that, but I'll just add some color to what Nick said. Dating back to, he had an 8X performance against Milwaukee. That was when he really first started to get a lot of minutes, and he had 45 DK fantasy points. He's hit value in 7 straight games, 8X twice. He's had at least 5X in 5 of those games. I mean, this guy, as Nick said, has just been seeing almost 40 minutes a game, really, and the value has just been absolutely incredible. The Bulls are 20th in defensive efficiency over the last 10 games. They're allowing over 113 points per 100 possessions. He is in a very strong spot here, and this is just a very strange price range for me. There's not a ton of options, really. I mean, I think there's only like 10 guys you can choose from. Bridges is definitely my favorite, but another guy I had my eye on was Chris Paul. I can't really get a read on him because they did play in an overtime game, so obviously his numbers are a little inflated from that. But I do think that he's in a pretty decent matchup against Kemba Walker, who historically over his career has been a decent defender. This year he's had kind of some lapses, and I think that Chris Paul could have a pretty good game here. I think that in general, this is an overtime candidate, this game. I think it's going to be very close. So you're not going to have any worries about, a blowout like you might have in some of these other guys with the 7K price range. I think Chris Paul actually is a pretty decent play here against Boston. He should get used a lot in this game.
All right, Nick, in that 6K range, you got 12 guys to choose from. Kuzma, you got Ayton, Melo. Where are you going?
Yeah, a little bit above 6K. We have Cole Anthony going back to that New Orleans-Orlando matchup yet again. Orlando is the more advantageous side to target in this one, but the Pelicans defense has been terrible all season. It's been a little bit better of late, but I think they're like 18th in defensive rating over the last 10 games, and a lot of those have come against bad teams. So this is not a great defense by any means, and Cole Anthony, is kind of back to a full minutes load after missing so much time. So I like him at 6,400. If Mason Plumley sits on the second night of a back-to-back, which based on how the Pistons have handled the rotation over the last couple of weeks is a definite possibility, then I really like Isaiah Stewart at 5,800. Plumlee had a huge game last night. Stewart didn't play that many minutes, but whenever he's in the starting lineup, he's been really, really good. He had a 3-game run recently when he averaged 17 points, 16 rebounds, 2.5 blocks, and 1 steal. Very quietly, guys, he leads all rookies in total rebounds and total blocks, despite ranking 12th in total minutes played. And he's first among qualified rookies in field goal percentage. So it looks like Detroit may have found a gem late in the first round.
Kenny, where are you going?
This might be a little bit out of left field, but I like Jacob Poeltl at $5,900. It's not quite over 6K, but I think it'll work here. It's just $100 under $6,000 because that's how math works. He's at 5X in each of the last 3 games. He's been seeing almost 30 minutes consistently. The Pistons have allowed the second most points in the paint over the last 10 games, almost 60 points in the paint in the last 10 games per game. So I think that Poeltl should have a pretty decent matchup here, trying to score the basketball. The implied team total here of 113, not the worst. And the Spurs, you got to remember, they're locked into that 10 spot out west. They're in a fight right now to try to, really get out of the 10 spot. They want to get to 7 or 8. Ideally, obviously, everyone wants to get out of the play-in tournament, but maybe even just to stay in the play-in tournament. All these games matter to the Spurs right now. So he's going to be out there. He's going to be playing hard.
So Matt, why don't you take over and pick someone who's in the 6K range?
I agree that Cole Anthony is my favorite play in this price range, but just to hit on someone different, I'll say PJ Washington at 5,900. He missed some time recently, came back 2 games ago, and basically has stepped right back into his usual workload, right around 35 minutes per night for a shorthanded Hornets squad. He's a pretty good producer on a permanent basis, right around 1 DraftKings points per minute, and a good matchup against the Bulls. So I think that this price range, at the moment, it kind of looks like a balanced build might be the best approach. I think that you can go with a couple guys in this range here. Anthony's my favorite, but PJ Washington definitely strong as well.
Okay, Kenny, we can go back to you. You appear to be unfrozen if you want to finish your thought.
Yeah, that's been happening sometimes. I think that the Spurs, the final thing I was saying about Pirtle is the Spurs have been, locked in this battle for playoff positioning. So I think that they're going to come out pretty energized here. And again, the Pistons have had a lot of turnover in the front court. They don't rebound the ball well. They don't defend well down low, as I think I touched on. I'm not even sure. But he's not the sexiest name on the board, but I think he's a pretty strong GPP play. I think you could probably pencil him in for at least 5x here on $5,900. So that's all I had to say. That's it.
Okay, Kenny, well, we'll stay with you while you're unfrozen. 5K and under range. Where are you going?
Perfect. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope at 5.2K. I guess I'm cheating again here, but it's a weird slate, so we can get away with it, right? He's the only Laker that sees a bump in usage rate when Anthony Davis is on the floor this year with a 0.2% bump. And look, I think that, Anthony Davis, there's an unquantifiable element to his return here, and that is the energy that he's going to bring to the Lakers. The Mavericks have not been playing good defense lately. They've been taking their foot off the gas on that end of the floor. They had been playing good defense, but not anymore. He's also hit value in 7 of 8 games. He saw 30 minutes last game. He's been seeing around 30 pretty consistently. So his playing time is back up into the range where I think he's definitely a play here at $5,200. He plays well with Anthony Davis, and this offense in general, not only the unquantifiable where they'll get energy. Anthony Davis adds 12 points per 100 possessions on offense. So whenever he's on the floor, good things are going to happen. He's going to draw attention. I think KCP here, $5,200, the price is right on him.
Okay, where are you going to be going for this one, Matt? 5K and under.
I'm sort of reading the tea leaves here like Nick. I think that we're going to get a rest day for the Pistons. Jeremy Grant probably sitting, Mason Plumley probably sitting, Corey Joseph potentially sitting on the second leg of a back-to-back. That's kind of what the Pistons' MO has been recently. So I have to stay on brand and pick my boy, Killian Hayes. The guy's been killing it when he gets a chance to play, consistent minutes. He's coming off of almost 33 and a half minutes the last time the Pistons rested their regular guys. Hayes has averaged just under 1 DraftKings points per minute. So he's 4,200. His price is getting a little bit more expensive, but he's still not expensive. I think that he doesn't need to do particularly much to return value here. And assuming all those guys are out, I think Hayes will be able to do it pretty easily.
All right, Nick, 5K and under.
Yeah, I have a few names that I'll toss out, starting with Nicole Bridges at 4,800. A guy who's more of a defensive player, not always relied upon for a ton of offense, but Kenny said he thinks this game could end up going into overtime. I don't necessarily disagree that it won't be a close game, but with Jaylen Brown likely out, Jason Tatum potentially out, Robert Williams already ruled out, I do like the Suns' chances to win this one on the road in Boston. And, without Brown and potentially without Tatum, I think Nicole Bridges could be looking at some pretty advantageous matchups against some of those young wings for the Celtics that might have to play big minutes tonight. I like Seth Curry at 4,500. Against Milwaukee, assuming he plays, of course, after sitting out last night, but that seemed like more of a rest issue as opposed to an injury. Philly could again be without some regulars. He might have to start at point guard if Ben Simmons doesn't play. And as has been the case for the last few years, the Bucks are still allowing a ton of threes. They're third in the league in opponents made threes. And then Matisse Thybulle, also in that Philly-Milwaukee matchup. He's down at 3,300, a little bit of a punt play, but he has been playing a ton of minutes lately. If Tobias Harris sits out again, that'll probably be the case. Yet again tonight, he had 0 points last night and still had 18.3 DraftKings points in that game. He has such a high floor because of that defense. He was terrorizing Devin Booker all night. So, with Thybulle, you're kind of banking on maybe 2 steals, 2 blocks, a couple of assists, and then you're hoping he just hits a few threes to boost that ceiling.
All right, guys, final question, and we're talking sportsbook. What's your favorite sportsbook bet for tonight's slate? Matt, where are you going?
I'm going with the Charlotte Hornets. They are right now getting 1.5 points on DraftKings Sportsbook. I think that's a pretty good number for them. The Bulls without Zach LaVine just really can't score the ball particularly well. Charlotte's not at full strength either. They're dealing with some injuries, but I think that they're a little bit more equipped to handle the absences of their guys than Chicago is to play without LaVine at this point. Chicago is averaging roughly 7 fewer points per 100 possessions with Levine off the court this season. So I like them as small underdogs in this matchup.
All right. Tell us where you're going here, Nick.
Well, I was going to say I like Phoenix -3.5 at Boston, and I still kind of like it. But as we speak, Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker are both officially in for tonight. So that makes me like that bet a little bit less. But I'll also go to that Charlotte-Chicago matchup. I think Matt is spot on. I like Terry Rozier over 22.5 points against that Bulls defense tonight. And then PJ Washington, 22.5 is his number for combined points, rebounds, and assists. He's a guy that's prone to some really bad games and will offset them oftentimes with some really good games. So I think taking that points, rebounds, assist bet instead of straight up points gives you a little bit of a higher floor there.
All right, where are you going for your favorite sportsbook bet of the night, Kenny?
Yeah. When I wrote this down, the Lakers were 4-point underdogs. They've now gone to 3.5. I still like it. I still like the Lakers to cover. I think they win here. Anthony Davis, yeah, I mean, they're saying he's fully healthy. So it is a bet on that in a way. I mean, I don't think he's going to play 38 minutes, but, if he's fully healthy, maybe we do see him for close to 30. And he does add 9 points per 100 possessions to this team. He actually makes this defense, which has been really good. This defense has been a top 5 defense over the past games. Since the All-Star break, they're number 2 in defensive efficiency. But the offense has struggled. So he's going to bring offense with him here, 8.2 points per 100 possessions. And this defense, I mentioned earlier, Dallas, it's wilted. It's wilted lately. The Lakers are 16-12 against the spread on the road this year. That's including a whole bunch of games without AD and LeBron. I think with AD back, the offense gets a much-needed boost. I think that there's this energy around the team with him back that they'll score the basketball with a little more ease. And again, I just think that the 3.5 is pretty much a nice bet here because I think it's either going to be a 1-point finish where the Lakers end up winning. So I would bet it even down to +2.